And everyone, so we have a lot to do for Pythagorean theorem, but we have that in a short time. So hopefully this video helps us to kind of cover everything and then see enough examples to be able to do all of our assignments this week. This week will be a little bit packed because we haven't had many assignments in the past. So we'll go ahead and get started. And just so you know, this video will be up all week and you will be able to use it however you need to. But you do need to complete all the questions here. The easiest way will be for you to take notes during the video, so that you don't have to keep going back to replaying it because there's not an option to skip through the video. So just an FYI, you might want to make sure that you are keeping notes during the video and that you are paying attention at all times. Alright, so with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get started. Remember, we are talking about the Pythagorean theorem. So just a reminder, the Pythagorean theorem says that in a right triangle, the squares of the legs, a squared plus b squared, add up to the hypotenuse squared. Sorry, forgot that part. So then that means a squared and b squared added up, that's why we have the plus sign between them, equal or is the hypotenuse squared. And then the hypotenuse, remember, is always c, which is actually my next point. Some things to remember about the Pythagorean theorem, and then just an FYI, you can always pause the video to take your notes. Things to always remember is that the hypotenuse will always be your c of your equation. Okay, and then also you need to make sure that you have the equation memorized. A squared plus b squared equals c squared every time. And so make sure that you write that equation at the beginning of your problem. And then remember that this is for all right triangles. So basically, the minute that you see this little symbol telling you that you have a right angle, the only other thing you have to make sure is that it's a triangle, and then you can use the Pythagorean theorem. The Pythagorean theorem is used a lot whenever dealing with the sides of a right triangle. So please remember that. Especially for high school, it just comes up over and over and over again. And then make sure that you know that the legs form the right angle. So you know that the hypotenuse is C, but then you also have to know that your remaining two sides, the ones that actually make your right angle, are your legs. And then I didn't add it here, but I think it's important to add. Please remember that your hypotenuse can always be found on the other side of the right angle. So you can always draw like a little arrow with it in the direction that it's pointing to, and then that will be your hypotenuse. So that's a good important note, which is actually the next thing that we have to do. So you will have some questions during the video to answer. So here is the first thing that you're going to have to be answering. The longest side of the right triangle is the hypotenuse. It is always the side opposite the right angle. So that is the information that I've been telling you, and now you can see it written here. Always the side opposite the right angle. So, for example, here in this triangle, we have the side CB or BC, which is this one. And then you have the side AB or BA, just a little bit of an extra geometry lesson. That's how we label sides, is based on their endpoints. So since we have A and B, we can just say that's AB, or we can go the other way and say that's BA. And then your third side is AC or CA, just depends on which way you started off. Okay, so again, we are trying to make sure that we know how to find the hypotenuse. So very first thing is find your right angle. And that means you're looking for this L shape with your right angle. So you're always looking for that L shape with your right angle. So here we have found it. Hopefully we all saw that before I even pointed to it. There's your right angle. And so remember that your hypotenuse is on the other side of it. Oops. The other side of it. So then that means that I could draw like a little arrow pointing to the opposite side. So then that means that no matter what this is labeled, this could be labeled X, this could be labeled 17, this could be labeled the square root of 29. Whatever it's labeled, that is your C value. So whatever this is, that will equal your C value, okay? Which is why it's important to find your hypotenuse first. All right, so let's go ahead and try that. So you have that example up at the top, and identify the hypotenuse of each one of these. Let's do this one first. So let's go ahead and identify this angle first. Oh, sorry. I think you need a few extra letters here. Okay. Okay, so you're going to be answering all three of these. Remember that the side lengths are labeled based on their endpoints. So for example, this is EG or GE. This is EF or FE. And then this is GF or FG. So whichever one you are trying to do, just make sure you label it correctly. All right, so go ahead and answer these. Which one is the hypotenuse for all three of them? All right, so these should be pretty self-explanatory. Find your right angle, look across from it. So then line FG or side FG would be your hypotenuse. Find your right angle, look across from it. So then GH should be your hypotenuse, or HG. Find your right angle, look across from it, and here we have LM are your hypotenuse, or is your hypotenuse, sorry. All right, so should be pretty simple. Now, then we move from there to actually using the Pythagorean theorem. But again, if you don't know how to find the hypotenuse, that's going to be difficult to do. So it says here the Pythagorean theorem can be used to find the lengths of the side of the right angle if the lengths of the other two sides are known. So you can never solve a equation by itself that has more than one missing variable. So you need to have at least two of the sides so that you can have only one variable to solve for. And again, remembering that a squared plus b squared equals c squared is your formula, and c is your hypotenuse. So we're going to first find c. I know they don't show it step by step, so I will talk through it. First find c. Here we have our right angle, point to it, and it's actually in this easy example, it's already labeled c. So we know that this is c, and since we don't know it, that's going to stay my variable. So this c in my equation stays a c. The other two sides will be my a and b. So a and b are actually going to be replaced by my other two numbers, 2.1 and 2.8. Okay. Now for your steps will always be to find your hypotenuse. Substitute each number given into your equation. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. All of that has already been done. Here's your next step. Always, always, always start with exponents first on both sides. Both of these sides have exponents, so you will be doing exponents on both sides. After that, your goal is to solve for each variable, whether it means simplifying a little bit more or starting to do inverse operations. So here, we go ahead and do my exponents, which means squaring. 2.1 squared was 4.41. 2.8 squared is 7.84. So those got replaced, and now I have this. Drop down my right side, which is just c squared, so I have 4.143 4.41 plus 7.84 equals c squared. Now here's where I said we're solving for c, but before we start solving, we simplify a little bit more by adding here, and we get 12.25 on the left side. Again, we're solving for c, and we need to get rid of the square. This is the part that they don't show you, but 12.25 equals c squared. You should know by now that to get rid of the square, you have to square root. Okay, that's what they did to get to this answer. Square and square root cancel out, so I'm left with c. Square root of 12.25 is about 3.5. I don't really know if that's an estimate or not, so I'm saying about. Okay, remember to use the calculator for your square rooting. Right, and so you will be doing some practice examples with that. This one is finding the leg, because if we look for my hypotenuse first, here's my right angle, go across from it, and we see that this is my C, and it's actually labeled, so I know that C is 12. So in this case, my C gets replaced by 12. Now my A is the one that doesn't have a length, and B is 10. So I have A squared, A stays A, but my B will be 10. Now, I personally, whenever you only have one of the legs, I always put the number with B and leave A as the variable. You don't have to do that, but it's just an easy way to do it. So then we have A squared plus 10 squared equals 12 squared. And again, first step is to do the squaring. So on the left side, I can only do 10 squared, which gives me 100. On the right side, I can only do 12 squared, which gives me 144. So now I have a squared plus 100 equals 144. Here, there's not a lot that I can do because I can't really add 100 to a squared, and the 144 is all by itself. So I start solving. At this point, I am solving. We need to get rid of the square and the 100, but remember to always get rid of what's furthest from your variable, which is the 100. So here we have to subtract 100 because it's being added. Remember, if you read that, that says a squared plus 100, so you have to subtract. So minus 100 on both sides. On the left side, I am just left with a squared. On the right side, 144 minus 100 gives me 44. And again, here's the step you don't see. They are square rooting both of these sides. Okay, so they square root both sides. Square root and square cancel out, and I'm just left with a. And then this one is estimated, so they're showing you that it's the square root of 44, or you go ahead and estimate it by putting it into the calculator, and you get 6.6. Okay, so now I do have a couple other examples, but basically this is going to be part of your assignment. So just so you know, you've already done number 1 and number 2. You'll have number 3 through 9 to work on. This one, I'm just really going to explain it. I don't think I want to work it out on video, because it's more like one of those like, not extra credit, but just a little bit of extra work. So this won't be on your test, but I just thought it would be a good way for you to see how it works out. All right, so here we have two right triangles. And the reason why I know there's two right triangles is because I know that those are two triangles put together, and I can see that they both have a right angle there. So that means, like, regardless of how I'm solving, I can automatically find my C by looking across from each of these right triangles. Okay, so here's what you need to know about this one is that they give you this triangle and they want you to find x. Okay, however, you know this is x, you know this is 12, but you actually don't know what this is right here, which is a problem, because remember that I said that you can't really solve when you have two missing sides. You have to have two sides and only one missing so that you can use the Pythagorean theorem. So that's where the other triangle comes in. And so we will actually be using that first to eventually get our answer. Okay, so this one, we have a missing side here, but we know that we have 6 and 8 forming my right angle. So if I were to label my A, B, and C for just that one, this will be the blue triangle. And so everything I do here is for the blue triangle. Okay, this one I'm kind of just going to go pretty fast through it. So my C, we don't know. That's my question mark. So my C is going to stay C. My 6 and 8 will be my A and B. And so then I will go ahead and put that into my equation. I have 6 squared plus 8 squared equals C squared. Again, I'm just substituting. Then we go ahead and start simplifying by doing my exponents first, which gives me 36 plus 64 equals, of course, still 6C squared. Then I go ahead and add because I can. It tells me to add 36 and 64, which gives me 100, and that'll be C squared. Now, here is where we need to get rid of the square by square rooting. Again, please don't make this more difficult than it has to be. Square root of 100 is 10, and square root of C squared is just C. So my answer is 10 for this only. So notice that all I did was find this side, and now I know that it's 10. I still don't know what x is, which is what they want. So, but now I can do that and figure it out by looking at this second triangle and doing the same thing. So now this is for my red triangle. So I have A, B, and C. Now here I'm going across, and I see that my C is 12. That's my side, which means A and B are X and 10. Does not matter which way you do it, but I'm still going to always leave the variable with A. So I'm going to have A be X and B be 10. Only reason why I'm putting X is because they used X. You can just leave that as A. So then I have A squared plus B squared equals C squared. My a, I'm going to put x squared. My b will be 10 squared. And my c will be 12, so 12 squared. I again do the same steps, square everything first. Can't really do anything with a variable. 10 squared is 100. 12 is 144. Start solving because my x, I can't simplify anything else and I need to get my x by itself. So I'm going to subtract 100 on both sides because it's being added. So then that gets rid of my 100. I'm left with x squared equal to 44 because 144 minus 100 is 44. And then of course I square root both sides and I have x equal to the square root of 44. And if they wanted the decimal, then I could find the decimal. Now this one, what they did was they actually simplified the square root of 44 to 2 square root 11, which is why I didn't want you guys solving this one out all by yourselves, because they did a little extra simplification that we haven't really worked on. So basically this is the square root of square root of 44. Last thing, the only reason why I'm not really going to talk about this is because I'm not going to teach that right before school is over. So we're just going to leave it at the square root of 44, or I would typically ask you to change it to a decimal, which means using your calculator. Here's another one if anybody wanted to try it. So if you feel up for it, you can go ahead and try this one, and it's just one of those ones where it's saying you have all these sides, but they want you to find the length of AC, which is a little more work because you don't know AO and you don't know OC, but they give you enough information where you could find that. And then I'll just help you out if you do want to try it out, that this is also a right angle because of the fact that the other one is a right angle. And then that means all of these are right angles. And this is just called supplementary angles, which means like when they're right next to each other on a line, they're going to be 180 degrees, which means if one of them is 90 degrees, the other one is also 90 degrees. And then that just kind of keeps going all the way around. Again, one little thing that I'm not going to teach this year, so just wanted to throw that in. But if you want to go ahead and challenge yourself to try to find what the length of AC is, which means combining this AO and OC, please go ahead. If you get the right answer, congratulations. That means you'll be definitely ready for your test on Friday.